Hello, how's it going? So today, I want to really talk about, well, a couple things actually. One of them is how teaching and learning is one and the same thing, and that true teaching is to demonstrate. And the other one is about withdrawal and the rat race, I suppose you could align that with. So part of the reason I'm feeling, or I think that I'm feeling this wanting or desire to withdraw even more, so I can feel there's like a distancing from Facebook and other, YouTube and other social media channels. And I think that has a lot to do with feeling like going inward is ultimately the most important thing, that really catching myself, even being in this sort of like yoga well-being industry, that I don't get consumed with an external pursuit around it. So an external pursuit for more money or an external pursuit for more clients. To me, it's really important to stay connected to my own self and to stay in the moment and in the flow and sort of living by example rather than trying to get more stuff, rather than trying to get more clients. And there's nothing wrong with getting clients and doing all that stuff. Absolutely not. I think when we have the desire, when there's these sort of inspired sort of up moments where we're out there doing stuff and therefore getting clients, that's a really positive thing. But if we're not inspired to do something, then we're doing it fruitlessly. We're doing it just going through the motions rather than being in the flow and participating in a way of life that really truly serves you. And the more you peel back some layers, the more you get to know your true self, or you get a sense of who you really are. And then I think the more you embody that and the more you allow yourself to be who you truly are, you just simply don't feel those external pressures in the same way. You're not, it's not a race, right? So you're not acting in such a way where life is like this rush, this manic rush to get everything done. Because really, I don't really feel that on a collective level we've actually agreed like why we're here. And so there's lots of different mindsets around what our purpose of life is. And of course, more in the Western world, there very much is this like we're meant to be stars, or we're meant to all be celebrities, or have hope and pursue this dream. And if you don't make it, then you're just sort of destined to be a slave to a system for your whole life. So I don't think that's necessarily a very healthy or even very hopeful dream to sell people and for people to buy into. So that's sort of where I'm coming from, where releasing oneself from that perspective, I think, is really important in finding your own sense of self and your own sense of joy. So I would say to that, withdrawal is a perfectly acceptable and normal part of spirituality and a spiritual connection in life. It's an important one. It's not necessary for all the time, but I'm realizing that it is a natural part of the ebb and flow of life, and that I want to honor and respect the out there action, doing everything, as much as I honor and respect the slowing down, the introspection, and what many of us would sort of deem like wasting time or not doing anything. But I actually think there is, in a more subtle way, there's lots being done when we appear not to be doing anything. So it's trusting in those times where we just want to reflect, or we just want to think. We just want to think in that really like that really good feeling place. I know in my alone time, it becomes a lot like I'm just doing like speeches in my head all the time. I'm just feeling and listening to the things that come into my mind as far as how to communicate new ideas or my own ideas to people or my own observations about life. And that brings me on to the next point is I've started the manual for teachers in A Course in Miracles, which is really exciting, and I can definitely feel like this shift of, oh right, now there's like this call to put it to practice and to like share more as a teacher of God according to A Course in Miracles. And to me that really just means you're consciously embodying light, love, compassion, forgiveness. You're consciously embodying that for all life and all people and all situations. And through that demonstration, through that example, you share with other people. And actually, it makes me think that I chose this a long time ago. And I know that I've written in my book and my guidebook, but I know for certain that I sort of consciously surrendered my will to a higher force because life was so painful for me at that time in my life. So now at 33 and almost 15 years later, doing this Course in Miracles and, totally resonating basically with the pretty much all of it, how I understand it. And coming to the manual for teachers where it's like, everyone's called to teach. And teaching and learning is the same thing. It's like we compartmentalize and define life to the point that we don't even get the full use of its presence, learning and education and teaching. We just put it into schools. And we think, schools, that's the only place you learn. And really, like, this is such a broad perspective that it's like every single time we engage with another human being, every time we're having an experience, we're in essence learning something. And so we're teaching something as well. Like, we might think we're learning something from somebody, but they might think they're learning something from us. And so in essence, we're all teaching one another all the time. And the most powerful teaching we can offer one another is through demonstration, is by the way that we live. And that does make me think about recently canceling a workshop. And the reason for me doing it was that getting to this point where I suddenly felt like I wasn't being true to myself. I suddenly felt like I wasn't able to be fully integral in myself. And that's not being true to me. And so that's not teaching by example, that's sort of letting somebody else teach for example, which is totally legit. But for some of us, when we're really going within ourselves and making our own way and finding our own process that perhaps goes against the mainstream grain a little bit, accepting that not everybody necessarily gets that, but also knowing that I get myself, and that I'm in a really beautiful place in my life right now where I have a lot of support and I have a lot of reflections. I have a lot of people affirming to me when I need that affirmation, like, no, you're right, like, you're allowed to do that, you're allowed to do it your own way completely, so redefining teaching and learning in that sense in a very broad way that really, as more minds begin to awaken, as more minds enlighten, to be able to see that thread, to be able to see that a teaching and learning situation is a constant. It's 24/7 sort of thing. We don't one day stop learning until we graduate and probably go hang out in a different form. I don't necessarily think the human experience is that of perfection. I think that we're here learning things and growing, and with the truth of ourself, like the truth of our spiritual signature essence, that is divine, that's perfect. Coming into this form, it's like we come here to have more learning in these forms, in these bodies, and then leave them behind when we've had enough, and then come back when we want more learning, and then leave them behind, and maybe one day never come back because we've we've done everything we're meant to do, and we've had all the experiences we've desired to have, and so we go to other realms. Maybe we go to different dimensions and we live there. I started smiling talking about this stuff because like some conversations I have with people, this is like totally normal. Other conversations I can tell people kind of gloss over and think, what are you talking about, other dimensions? And I know a lot of the people that I like, mentors that I follow and stuff, they talk about this stuff. So it's really, bridging this gap into becoming spiritually aligned with self, so that you can navigate your life from a more powerful, authentic, and directed way, self-directed way, and not getting what some people might perceive as too airy-fairy or too spaced out, or because through real lack of awareness, I suppose, not knowing that there's like all this stuff going on with energy that we just haven't been taught about. So we think the world's one way. Really, as human experience goes, we're only really scratching the surface of knowing, what's actually going on. And I think ultimately it comes down to every individual sort of answering their own call and becoming who they're meant to become and getting to know themselves. And then in that sense, the more self you embody, ultimately the more aligned with unity consciousness you are. And so it's much easier to just allow people, everyone, to be who they are. And you naturally align with the people who have the same interests and who align with pretty much the same mindset as you do as well, so that everyone can work together and build something really beautiful as a community. So that's part of the reunification of our social communities, that we're uplifting ourselves, going through this kind of weird phase, and then eventually we'll come into this really epic kind of rock and roll 60s emergence of culture again, because those seeds have been planted. And again, we're coming into like a crunch time where it's now. All of this stuff is happening now, and through our own choices and our own awakening to more light-filled awareness, and ultimately healing as well. And the more of us who heal, the more scope we have for then creating those new, awesome, beautiful, the communities, the parties, the endeavors, and the projects that need to happen. That's probably bubbling within a lot of people right now, like these great ideas that would just serve so many people. And this is like the vlog where it's like all about really encouraging people to follow through with their inner desires. And I know I'm in that same boat, and I think that's why I share, is really just about accountability and holding myself and others accountable to the fact that, it's up to us now. This is it. We're the next generation. This is our world, to step into, our power to step into, and to create the world that we feel from within is true for us, not just following somebody else's rules. I hope you've had a great few days, and I'm really happy to talk to you again. Have a wonderful day. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste. Peace out.
All to love. All to love.